Hi, I'm Dr. Mark, and I'm going to help you sing and perform more like the top artists around the world. I'm a professional voice teacher, performance coach, and opera stage director. I've helped thousands of singers around the world learn the techniques and methods that got the top singers to where they are. Let's talk about what makes BTS's performance live at the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles so awesome. We'll be talking specifically about the Fire Medley. Here we go. Okay, so my question here at the beginning is, where are you supposed to be looking on this stage? To me, it seems really clear that the place you're supposed to be looking is the center screen, right? Why? Well, because if you've ever been to the Rose Bowl, that's actually close to home for me. And so you can imagine if you're up at the top or even anywhere else in the seats, that these people are going to be relatively small. And so that's one of the awesome things about live video streaming on the stage and being able to see them there is it lets the people in the back be right up close next to them and feel like they're part of that, right? Then why on earth then do we need it to be a live performance? It's all video. Well, there's something about having the real people there that lends to its reality and authenticity. If it wasn't, then our brain wouldn't engage it quite in the same way. If I can look at the screen and then look down at the people, then I can see that they're doing the same thing, that all I'm seeing on screen is just a close-up version of them, which heightens that believability and the excitement, and it doesn't feel like a video performance anymore. And that makes a big difference. So love what they're doing there and taking into consideration the venue that they're in and trying to really connect with their audience all over the place. And this isn't unusual. I know they do this all the time. Most venues do, especially these big venues, have now gone to streaming and close-ups of people as they're performing. That's part of the design. But still, thought I'd mention it here since it was just so clear that our focal point here really was this center screen. Okay, one of the other things I want to point out here is as they're creating this experience, what the audience is doing and the environment that the audience creates is part of that experience. So if you're performing and putting on a performance, you want to think, how is the audience contributing towards that entire experience? Is there anything I can do to heighten it so every element of this, not just what's happening on stage, but what's happening in the audience also contributes? These lights that we're seeing all over the place, that we see in all these concerts, are really important because it creates this really gorgeous backdrop for everything else that's going on. If the audience takes a moment and looks over this audience, it helps show the spectacle and grandeur of what's going on. And so that's really, really, really exciting. Vocally, what's going on here, it's all really speech-like at this point. Not a lot of really intense technical singing. It's mostly a lot of movement, a lot of dance, a lot of speech-like singing, but trying to keep things simple, consistent, easy, and letting the mic do the job. Awesome. Another thing I want to point out here is if you look at their costumes, the places where it's just straight white actually don't read as well. They wash out and they wash everything around it out as well. Straight white on stage in general is something that's going to wash things out. It draws attention. It really pulls our focus in and to look at it. As I'm watching here though, the colors that they have going on that aren't tied to white, that don't have white going on, read a lot stronger. Another thing that's worth pointing out here is their mic technique. If they don't have that mic up at their mouth, and because they're not singing, they bring it right down, they keep it loose, relaxed, they don't hold on to it too tight, they also don't drop it, right? They're keeping things nice and relaxed. That does two things. One, it gives their arm a rest, so it's not locked into this position anymore. Two, it reads more expressive because now their body's moving and they're not covering their face with a mic anymore. And it becomes a prop at the same time. So all those things are really important as you're using that mic, is to make sure that if you aren't using it, to try to get away from it, but then get right back to it before you start making that first sound, and keep it there until you finish making your last sound. Such a high energy piece. So many things going on. So much movement, so much action. What's important to note here is that they aren't letting that travel into their voice. They're not letting the voice get tense, tight. They're not pushing at it, screaming, and letting that carry over. They've really learned to keep it efficient, to let all the excitement, the energy show in their face and their body and everything that they're doing, letting the lights contribute, letting their costumes contribute, but keeping this nice and easy and consistent and not pushing it over singing. That's such an important skill to work. It's really hard, and it takes a lot of deliberate practice to be able to dissociate things so this stays relaxed. It still needs to be expressive, but it can't get tight. You can't take those emotions and put them in the vocal mechanism. You need to be deliberate about how you're creating those sounds. And if you have this energy, this tension, this excitement, put it everywhere but in the vocal mechanism. Okay, another thing that I love when I'm watching BTS is how they keep that energy up. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it show after show after show all the time. Well, I do. I know that they train like crazy, and it's just amazing that they're able to keep that energy level all the time. Do they always feel that full of energy? No, I'm sure they don't. They're human. One of the keys is figuring out what you need to do between performances and before performances to have that kind of energy. Even if you don't feel it, you have to be able to get yourself energized before a performance, because if you aren't, then the audience won't feel it. You as a performer have to bring that energy. If you do, then the audience will absorb it and amplify it and give it back to you, and then it becomes this awesome cycle, where if you don't, then the audience will do the reverse, and they'll take on your apathy or your tiredness, your fatigue, your angst, and then they'll amplify it and feed it back to you. So what we do before the show, and really being conscious about keeping our energy really high and going, even if it's a slow song, even if it's a relaxed song, making sure that we're keeping our energy up and not letting it drop and droop and die is really, really important. And they do an awesome job. Again, I don't know how they do all they do night after night after night and keep it such high energy, but they do, and it's awesome. Other cool thing to point out here is that even though they're keeping things really relatively relaxed in their throat, the other place they're putting energy and excitement and really engaging the audience with is their consonants. How deliberate, how crisp, how clean, how expressive they're using their consonants by really engaging their tongue, teeth, and lips to be super articulate, especially on the words that they're wanting to articulate and pop out of the texture of what they're saying. That creates its own excitement without it having to get tight and tense here. Other thing that I mentioned before with BTS videos, but gotta mention again here, is their transitions. They're so flawless. They're so awesome. What can we learn? What we can learn is practicing the transitions is probably the most important place that will let the audience know if you're a pro or an amateur. If the transitions are amazing, pro. If you do an amazing song, but the transitions are sloppy and look messy and take forever, and you totally like break character and aren't a performer anymore, or there's problems, amateur. You lose your audience. Here, they really plot out the pace of their program, not just of the songs and the songs back to back, but those spaces in between. Love it. I also love how strongly they're using the lights to create contrast here. We just went from reds to greens, just bump, bump. And it was really clean and really exciting so that we didn't lose the energy, but we had a clear shift into something new and different. That's also really important. If they would have stayed in the same look that they had before, visually we would have started getting tired of it. We would start disengaging. We would stop kind of listening and paying attention to what's going on. So they brought us right back in by creating a big contrast change that matched a musical change, and then their bodies and what we're seeing did the same thing. Again, matching all those elements together. Notice they're singing Upper Tooth came out. Yeah, he did this bend back thing. Again, that's a physical way to show this intensity of emotion. We don't want it to creep into here. But he released that jaw. Upper Tooth came out. Ah! Moment. Loved it. The other way to make it sound like you're really punching what you're singing is, you'll notice here, they're actually punching it, right? With their body. We can get the sound effect. It can sound like what we're wanting it to be by showing it, even if it doesn't happen in our voice. Go crazy. The audience is still going to hear it, even if we aren't really punching it and stressing it here. If our body's showing the emotion that we're trying to say, our audience will probably perceive the sound as matching what we're doing with our body, even when it's not. half the time. Other big thing to notice here is that they aren't going 100% all the time. They're being really active and then they take a break. Really active, take a break. And they rotate through their group, so there's never a dead spot of everyone all together. And then there are times like we're about to see where it gets really exciting. They're all there together. But you'll notice they're all kind of relaxed and taking a moment before they did that. That's important, not just as a performer in pacing yourself, but also for the audience visually. This stress release lets the audience also feel this stress release. It's kind of like taking a break between courses of a dinner or sorbet. It lets us rest for a moment so we're ready to process and think about the next thing and really take the most of it. If it's just thing after thing after thing after thing after thing, it becomes overwhelming and we become desensitized. So this process of stress release, or action, inaction, or rest and activity, however you want to think about it, is really, really important, not just for the performer, but for the audience. Love the levels they use. Awesome levels there. They all go down, he stays up. They're always using different levels. Okay, so I don't know if you know what I mean by levels. For those of you who don't, it means different focal points on stage. So if we just stand straight up all the time, then that's one level. Basically where our eyes are resting, right? They get down in a crouch, they get down onto the ground, they go to a knee, they lean over, they jump. These are all new levels that they are achieving without anything on stage to stand on. Yeah, if they had a bench, if they had another platform that they could stand on, that's another way to get levels. But even on a blank flat stage, there are so many levels that we can use. So as a performer, learning how to take advantage of every single layer possible to help give contrast, variety, and meaning are really, really key. There's an obvious reason why these gentlemen are at the top of charts and considered by many the top band of the world, doing stuff all over the place. There's a reason for it. And hopefully some of the things that we discussed today helped you see what made them so awesome so you can apply them and make yourself awesome as well. If you want a voice lesson, a performance coaching, or want me to work with you or your group to help you sing easier, perform at a consistently higher level, book a time with me at mrperformingartstudio.com. I look forward to working with you online.